We're here at CyberScoop's Zero Trust Summit with Bhanchand Prasad, customer engineer at Google Cloud. Bhanchand, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
So first I'd like to ask, how is OMB's Zero Trust requirements for agencies to adopt things like enterprise-wide platforms for identity and access management and multifactor authentication, how's that impacted government contractors and IT providers like Google Cloud?
As we know, Zero Trust is really a response to the enterprise networks with regards to bring your own devices, remote users, and cloud assets. So network is not the perimeter anymore. The perimeter is moved to the identity source. That's one of the key components of the Zero Trust platform, is to be able to ensure the right identity is accessing the resources. With regards to that, if you really look at the OMB, in accordance to the NIST 863B, there's a requirement that passwords must not contain special characters, don't have to be rotated periodically, which puts greater emphasis on multifactor. So we see that needs to be implemented as part of the memo within 1 year. So we see greater adoption of identity and access management systems across the agencies. Now, when identity is the perimeter, device, context, all of that come into play to make sure that the right resource is accessing the assets that they need to get to.
Well, and speaking of devices, what challenges do you see government agencies still facing trying to maintain a complete inventory of authorized devices as spelled out by OMB and ensure that their endpoint detection and response tools are properly deployed?
So when we talk about Zero Trust, we're really talking about identity, we are talking about device, and we are talking about the context in which access happens. So you see, device is a very key pillar in that Zero Trust environment. Now, there are a lot of challenges with regards to managing devices. The first and foremost really is a lot of unmanaged devices, a plethora of different kinds of devices, so having to deal with those. And then on the unmanaged device sides, there are rogue devices that are not part of the MDM solutions. There are devices that don't have the right agents to manage. Then there are agents that we don't know where they are. So they are on devices we have no idea about. So that's where the device comes into the picture. But then there's also the move to the cloud. And if you really look at that, there are a lot of instances in the cloud that may not be managed or may be misconfigured. All this data, as getting reported back, many times create false alerts. It doesn't have the right context. So really making sense of the device and what it's telling us in terms of access sometimes can become a challenge. As you see, when we are talking about devices, it's just not managing those devices, but being able to take data from these devices and make them actionable to your Zero Trust posture.
And then how well equipped would you say federal agencies are today compared to, say, a couple of years ago to identify and isolate segments of their IT environments that may have been compromised?
So I think there has been, in the last few years, we have seen great emphasis in trying to prevent this from happening in the first place. But I think the question is, what happens if there is an incident, and how well prepared are the agencies to manage that incident? And we find that there's a lot of work to be done in that space because from the time an incident is detected, so you're really looking at large volumes of data. You want to make sure that you are controlling the spread of that incident, and you're containing that. Now that's one aspect, which is what do you do when the incident happens? At the same time, there's need to have continuity of operations. So as the systems are down, you're trying to contain it, you're trying to remediate it, but then you want your communication and communication systems to continue to operate. So that's where the continuity of operations becomes equally important, and I think there's a lot of work needed to be done in that space.
And then lastly, looking ahead, how are OMB's zero trust policies kind of altering the investment strategies of organizations like Google Cloud?
So in the OMB document, it was recognized that mature cloud systems can actually provide higher level of security, because many of these systems will give you identity and attribute-based controls as well as isolation of environments. So a lot of agencies can actually benefit from adopting cloud solutions that are mature in this space to really fast forward their zero trust journey. Now, from the point of view of integrators and contractors, there is a challenge in actually bringing zero trust to both on-prem as well as hybrid cloud systems. There are point solutions that may be difficult to really secure. So there's a lot of confusion in this space. And from Google's side, we want to encourage customers to really adopt cloud environments because they're easy to implement. They are also will increase the security posture. From Google itself, after the meeting with President Biden in August of last year, there was an announcement of $10 billion in investment in cybersecurity over the next 5 years. There's also the Google Career program, which plans to train 100,000 American citizens on just IT and security and data privacy. So there's a lot of work that's happening, but there's quite a bit still remaining to be done.
Terrific. Well, Bhanchand, thank you so much for joining us here at the Zero Trust Summit.
Thank you.